Yo, what up, what up? This is your boy King Siri straight from Busy Home Beat. Yes, and in today's tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to compress your sound to sound okay for you. Okay, so without wasting my time, let's just get into the video. When we say compression, the meaning of compression. What's the work of the compressor? Okay, so when we say compression, before you can understand compression, first of all, you're supposed to understand one word over here. That is one word over here, that is dynamic range. When we say dynamic range, what is dynamic range? Dynamic range is the difference between the loudest part and the quietest part of a sound. The difference between the loudest part and the quietest part of what? A sound. So if you check this sound over here, let me use the clap first. If you check this sound over here, you can actually see that the waveform here is actually different. So from here up to here, you can see that it slopes. Here is being played louder than this part. You get it? So it slopes like this. But if I'm using this kick, and let me say I use this EQ here, I EQ it to this kind of form. So you can see that all this part is what really the same. So this one is called low dynamic range. Low dynamic range, because this part are all the same. So that's for low dynamic range. And if you look at the clap on, because it is like this, we call it what? High dynamic what? Range. High dynamic range. From this high to this part is high dynamic range. That's the way the waveform looks. Okay, so to get into the video, let me see I just do this. And so compressor. And what is compression? Now we know dynamic range and low and high dynamic range. What is compression? When we say compression is making sure that, or the process of making sure that the sound is actually balanced. That is, you don't have some part of the sound being played louder than the other. You get it? It is actually balanced. So whenever the sound is being played, everything is being played at an even or equal volume, something like that. So that's the meaning of compression. So now I'm going to use this stock plugin here, which is Fruity Limiter from FL Studio. If you have FL Studio, probably you have this one too. Okay, so we are going to use this compressor. The reason why I'm using this stock plugin is because some of you watching might not have the third-party plugin that I will use. So I would love to use this stock one if you are using, but you can apply it to any DAW that you are okay with, that you are using. Just understand the process and how this kind of plugin works. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the threshold, ratio, attack, release, and what makeup gain here. So if you look at this, the threshold here, let me just play the sound for you to see the wave. Okay. Okay. So now that we are having this waveform here, this threshold here, the threshold, what it does is, because it is the work of this threshold is whenever you set the threshold to this level, it means whenever the frequency crosses this line, compression must what take place. When it reaches this line, this decibels, compression must what take place. So it depends on you where you really want it to be. You look at your waveform, you think it must be compressed to this level, the threshold must be set to this level, so that whenever it reaches the compression must what take place. And the threshold here, when you look at its original form, you can look at the top here. If you look at the top here, when I put it on ratio, you can see the compression ratio, we have 1:1. This 1:1 simply means at every 1 decibel of frequency volume, give me back 1 decibel of what? Frequency volume. So if I change it and now I'm having 4:1, it means at this threshold, every 4 decibels of frequency volume, when the compression reach at every 4 decibel of frequency volume, compress that 4 decibel of frequency volume and give me back 1 decibel of what? Frequency volume. So if I move upwards and let's say 7 decibel of 7:1, it means the compression must take place at whenever the frequency volume reaches at what? 7 decibel of what? Frequency volume. It should give me back 1 decibel of what? Frequency volume, because I want to have my volume being even or equal, something like equal. But you know we can't get equal sounding, but it's supposed to be similar or closed. Yes, so that's the work of the threshold. And if you want too much compression, then you're supposed to make sure that your threshold, your ratio is actually really high, so that too much compression can actually take place for you. And the work of the attack simply means at every, so when you look at the top there, now the attack is around 3.15 milliseconds, so it means you're supposed to attack it at this kind of time rate. You get it? So attack this place at this time at this time that I've set. So let's say 4.47 milliseconds. Every 4.4 milliseconds, make sure that where the threshold have been set to, the ratio must let the compression take place by giving me, now the ratio is 5:1. The ratio must give me at every 5 decibel of frequency volume, you're supposed to give me 1 frequency volume of dB. So it means it's supposed to attack it at this time, and it's supposed to compress it at this time too. Okay, so the release here is telling us that whenever it attacks it, you're supposed to hold it till when the time reaches 41.58 milliseconds. 41.58 milliseconds. So that is the work of the threshold, the ratio, the attack, and the release. Attack it at this time rate and release it at this time rate. Ratio, give me this kind of frequency volume back when this kind of frequency volume reaches the threshold which has been set for us. And the makeup gain here, you can see that whenever you do compress your sound, you lose some kind of volume here, because the compressor here is actually bringing down some of the loudest part to meet the lowest part, so that you can have some equal or similar or balanced volume there. So because it is bringing it down, it loses some volume there. So it's up to you to actually bring up some kind of makeup gain. So you bring some of the makeup gain to fit how you want it to sound. You just bring it up a little bit for your own kind of clarity or loudness, so that the parts which have been compressed down together with to meet the lowest part will all come up, so that it sound okay. So I'm just going to because I've compressed it around -24 and this, and start the attack and everything, I'm going to play it without the compressor on it. Then after that, I'll put the compressor on it, so that you get to know the difference. And I'm putting the compressor on it. Without the compressor, with the compressor on it. So you can see this waveform that it has been compressed. So just try and practice with it. You could get better with this. Okay, so this is your boy King Series. If you like whatever I did over here, please thumbs up to the video, like and comment to the video, and also subscribe. And make sure you just comment down whichever way you want me to explain anything to you. Just do it, and I'll go ahead and do it. It's your boy King Series, straight from Busy Home Beat. Yes, and I'm out.